Chapter 91 War Without Smoke. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Han Xing can specialize in technologies below 12 nanometers in the future, and global foundries will focus on technology nodes above 12 nm. At the same time, the two can also complement each other in the two routes of FinFET and FDSOI. Even in the future, all industries that require chips in the Internet of Everything, the automotive field, and the 5G field will have great potential and technical strength. So I destroyed Han Xing's factory that developed the most high-end technology. The stick can't be restored for a while, so I plan to occupy the mid to high-end market. When the factory is destroyed, will it still be a big advantage? That I have to say that Bangzi is really disgusting in terms of scheming. The top-end market will not recover for a while, but the monopoly of the mid to high-end market and the stimulation of market panic have greatly increased chip shipments and demand, which is simply a win-win situation. Then there is the Israeli multi-aperture imaging technology provider CP, according to relevant information, OPO, a mobile phone brand of Xiaogua, is an important customer of CP, an Israeli multi-aperture imaging technology provider. For more than 2 years, the camera technology provided by CP to OPPO is the selling point of OPPO. And OPO also intends to strive to sign a strategic license agreement with CP in 2018. CP now has a 10x hybrid optical zoom technology in its hands, which may make OPO quite competitive next year, but all of this will be cut off by Han Xing. Take a look at the Scarf forum, and there is a lot of bluffing on the internet. Fuck me, is Han Xing so rich? The acquisition costs add up to $1 billion, right? $1 billion. Hansung Electronics' 16-year performance, with a net profit of 7.09 trillion won, is about $6 billion. In 2017, the price of memory has risen again, and the price of mobile phone parts has also risen. Hansung Electronics may earn tens of billions US dollars, and it is also a subsidiary of the Hansung Group. Nima, you really deserve to be the #1 chaebol in Goryeo. This is too scary. You guys are talking about this, but you haven't seen it yet. What does Han Xing want to do? If it occupies the high ground of wafer production, it will be invincible innately. The chips used in mobile phones are all cut out of wafers. Upstairs, if you put it this way, Hansung Electronics will also buy the company that is engaged in the optical zoom technology of the camera. Doesn't it mean that the chips, screens, cameras, and memory of the mobile phones we will use next year will all be covered by Samsung? Gu Qing looked at the comments that appeared from time to time among netizens, and he was also deeply moved in his heart. Han Xing is a real damn cow spleen, and the more I read the information that Xuanwu queried, the more I felt that Bangzi's move was really ruthless. Daxia's semiconductor production supply is far below demand. In 2016, Daxia's wafer manufacturing capacity accounted for only 10.8% of the world, while the consumer market accounted for 33% of the world. According to the supply and demand situation in 2016, Daxia can produce 756k pieces of 12-inch wafers per month in 2016, while the actual demand is 1061k pieces, and the monthly supply and demand gap reaches 305k pieces. That is, the current production capacity needs to be increased by 40% to meet the current demand. Up to now, Daxia has 11 mass-produced 12-inch manufacturing lines, and the accumulated 12-inch design capacity is 540k per month. There are 18 mass-produced 8-inch wafer manufacturing lines, and the cumulative 8-inch capacity is 671k, totaling about the equivalent production capacity of 12 inches is 840k, but in actual production, based on 90% capacity utilization, the actual output is about 756k. Among them, in 2016, the total 12-inch design capacity of Sheshin Technology, Huawei, and Wuhan Xinxin, the local wafer foundry industry in Daxia, was 160k, while the actual output was 134k. The total design capacity of 8-inch is 446k, while the actual output is 430k. The total production capacity of domestic OEMs in Daxia is about 350k equivalent of 12 inches. More importantly, Daxia's wafer production capacity is mainly based on foreign-funded foundries, while domestic-funded foundries have relatively less production capacity. After reading one report after another, Qing closed his eyes and thought about it. So at present, international semiconductor technology is approaching the critical point of Moore's law, and the speed of technology update has slowed down. If domestic enterprises in Daxia seize the opportunity and make full use of the favorable environment such as policies, they can achieve technological catch-up. Taking the production of 18-inch wafers as an example, due to the overall adjustment of overall equipment and production lines, the industrial progress has been slow for many years, and the global production capacity is still dominated by 12-inch wafers. This trend is expected to continue until 2019. 18-inch wafers mass production is not expected to be achieved before 2010, so with the technology in my hands, it is possible to take a bite of the fat. Although it is a bit troublesome and the interests are huge, but when the qualification of the secrecy unit is obtained, there will be some wolf-hearted things in the country who will grin their teeth. If he dares, the iron fist of the country and the iron fist of Kyushu Technology Company will dare to teach him to be a man. However, the preparations ahead should be accelerated. A phone call was made, and Zhang Yuanfeng, who was still busy in a foreign country, received an order: recruit the people on the list as soon as possible. This is something that can only be achieved after the number of installed users of Jibei has reached 1 billion. Each user is an information providing point and data processing point, constructing a data model, analyzing potential talents and talents that have just been shown, and the success rate is over 90%. If the boss says a word, the subordinates will lose their legs, but thinking about the little money he could get at the end of the year, Zhang Yuanfeng was refreshed and went on to the next location. On December 23, Han Xing and Global Foundries held a joint press conference. The content of the meeting was very simple. Han Xing invested in the acquisition of Global Foundries. In the first step, Hansung Electronics will take over GF's production base in Singapore within 2 months, including 8-inch wafer fabs and 12-inch wafer fabs, and GF is located in the United States. The FAB8 plant in New York State, which was put into production in 2012, has started 14 nanometers advanced process production. In June 2015, it acquired IBM's microelectronics department and obtained 8-inch fab FAB9 and 12-inch fab FAB10. Fab 9 and FAB 10 obtained certified by the U.S. military. It is the main factory of GFRF production. Han Xing is very rich and powerful, and Global Foundries is also very sincere, just like you give money and I provide services. When Qing saw the news, his mind was filled with thoughts. Global Foundries is the only remaining U.S.-funded foundry and is the biggest competitor of TSMC in Ryukyu province. After Han Xing, who also holds high-end technology, opens up its foundry business, the acquisition of Global Foundries will instantly pose a threat to TSMC. As for this acquisition case that was completed so quickly, the first adjudication power is undoubtedly in the hands of the American government. How is this a Korean star buying the world's second-largest GF? This is clearly a change of hands from the American bigwigs, and a wave of Korea's national wealth is harvested by the way. After all, foreign capital dominated by the United States accounts for most of the shares of Hanshin Group, especially preferred shares, which account for nearly 90%, although these foreign capitals only enjoy dividends. The Lee family owns 2% of the shares of Hanshin Group, and firmly controls the entire Hanshin Group through a rather complicated equity structure. Han Xing is donating 98% of his profits to American capital. This behavior is like a dog actively biting the rope and letting the owner lead it. Disgusting, really disgusting. Chapter 92 Decision. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Science has no borders, but scientists have borders. Capital has no borders, but capitalists have borders. Daxia has devoted himself to developing for decades, and now his muscles are so big that even dragons can't ignore them. Among the nations of the world, Huaxia once released goodwill, but when Shenzhou fell, it received infinite malice, and today, when Daxia was about to stand up again, those people are at it again. Qing drank a cup of warm wolfberry water, pressed his sore waist, and opened his encrypted hard drive with a capacity of 100 terabytes. There are heavily encrypted learning materials and some future industrial deployment files. Chips are the heart of Daxia's high-tech. The production technology of Shishin technology has gradually climbed up, but it is difficult for a clever woman to cook without rice. Silicon wafers, as the basic material for manufacturing semiconductor devices and chips, play a pivotal role in the industry. In this regard, Daxia's wafer manufacturing capacity in 2016 only accounted for 10.8% of the world. For such a critical thing, its basic raw material is silicon, which exists in rocks and gravel in the form of silicate or silicon dioxide in nature. This cheap thing can become a wafer after deoxidation and purification, manufacturing ingots, wafer slicing, polishing, and coating. Once the wafer is coated with photoresist, it is ready to start making chips. Qing has the basic scientific knowledge of the dimensional empire. It would be a fantasy to ask him to build a leap engine now, but to build a wafer is just within his grasp. With a strong artificial intelligence that provides computing and training for 1 billion users, Xuanwu can accurately grasp all calculation processes and optimize the cutting system, all kinds of robotic arms optimized and calibrated for more than half a year. Kyushu Technology may be able to get a big piece of the chip industry in a few months. Of course, this requires the cooperation of friends and businessmen. After all, cutting out this thing also requires major manufacturers to design chips, and then manufacture them by lithography machines. Internet keyboard warriors always think that making chips is very simple, but they don't know that chips below 12 nanometers need technical talents and patents from dozens of countries to complete them. The three words lithography machine represent the gathering of a handful of the top modern high-tech. 1 year in the forefront of the world, 3 years to complete overtaking. Even the United States can't do it. The reason why American capital can choke their necks is that they have allies. It is impossible for it to do it alone. TSMC is the #1 wafer foundry in the world, while Global Foundries and Hanxing are the second and third in the competition. This time, Hanxing's big acquisition of Global Foundries will directly draw half of the country with TSMC. At that time, even if the manufacturing process of Shaoxin technology comes up, it will be uncomfortable if there is not enough wafer supply. People can directly suppress Daxia's chip industry by raising the price of raw materials and restricting purchases. If Daxia spends a lot of money to follow up, they will dump the whole world at low prices, making Daxia's high investment directly zero return. Qing pointed at the table with his right index finger, thinking about how to deal with it properly. After all, technology cannot be produced in a day. Without technology accumulation and industrial upgrading, it takes a little manipulation to suddenly come up with the world's top production technology. After drinking the wolfberry water in the cup, he contacted Dong Qi through the internal office software version, Boundary Monument. Old Dong, I'm ready to step in and enter the wafer manufacturing industry. Dong Qi on the other side of the phone had just finished signing a document. Hearing this, the pen in his hand couldn't help shaking. What the hell? You just hooked up with powerful departments in the industry of bionic mechanical prosthetics, so you're going to get involved in other industries? It is still a troublesome industry such as wafer manufacturing. Boss, do you know that 15 silicon wafer fabs monopolize more than 95% of the market? In wafer manufacturing, there is no so-called letting 100 flowers bloom, and some are just self-admiration by the giants. You don't like Korean stars becoming bigger, but we don't have that diamond. Who said no? I let Zhang Yuanfeng float outside for so long, just to recruit technical talents. I said the number, 100 million, you should hurry up and prepare. Usually when Qing speaks in this tone, Dong Qi will know that he has indeed made up his mind. Feeling helpless, he said, okay, let me see how I can get you 100 million. After speaking, he turned off the call. In the past few months, the company has been doing well. After expanding its industrial line, hundreds of thousands of high-end smart sweeping robots and smart dishwashers have been shipped. Make your way to the million. At this moment, the only thing restricting the output is that the factory workshop is not enough. After all, 100 million can actually be scraped together. After Lao Dong settled the matter, Qing contacted Huang Chaoran again. Old Huang, go to the government of Rongqing City to discuss the land, just the wasteland next to our factory, 300 mu. Huang Chaoran rubbed his ears, and asked with some uncertainty, Brother Gu, is it 300 acres or 100 acres? 100 acres, to be honest, is easy to talk about, but 300 acres. It's not a state-owned enterprise, central enterprise or foreign capital. Senior government officials will just grant you such a large site. It's just a fantasy, and Gu Qing's reply made him feel that he might have auditory hallucinations. Wait, Brother Gu, are you saying that we are going to get involved in the chip wafer industry? And will soon become a confidential qualification unit? How did this world become so unintelligible? Huang Chaoran felt a sense of crisis. As the head of the PR operation department, he now has more talents under his command, but the company is growing too fast. The rapid changes made him a little scared, but in order to keep up with the pace, Huang Chaoran bit the bullet and agreed, but Gu Qing also knew that his little friend might also be confused, so he talked about the general and the bionic mechanical prosthesis. Of course, it is definitely not, because the first batch of inspectors from relevant departments will come to the factory for inspection in a few days. Gu Qing just felt that it was okay for his old Huang to treat people and things, and he was going to Xia Wei for a meeting, so he made these arrangements. After the money and land are settled, there is only one equipment and factory left. Wafer fabrication plants require dust-free, quiet, and even partially oxygen-free workshops, so construction costs are relatively high, and some infrastructure that can be purchased is not cheap. The old factory manager of Luo Songtang will naturally take over the banner. Xuanwu has already drawn up the procurement list. The old factory manager only needs to contact the familiar construction team and take the time to supervise every day. Of course, the person in charge of contacting Gu Qing and being cheeky asked Professor Zhuang Yue for some equipment and talents. Although Professor Zhuang wondered whether it was reliable or not, he thought about it. Even if he failed, he was still spending other people's money to give his students experience, so he agreed to it. Moreover, Gu Qing, in Professor Zhuang's opinion, belongs to the type of genius. Although he doesn't understand human relations, what he says is still targeted. P.S. Thank you for the recommended tickets, monthly tickets, and 3 consecutive rewards in August, as well as the God-level bookworms who read novels, the monthly tickets for Ghost Reader 135, and other recommended tickets from Yanzu. Chapter 93 18-inch wafers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. There are talents, land, and factory equipment, but after all, 100 million is only enough for the initial consumption. Substantial capital investment will be required later. As for the remaining holes, how to fill them reasonably, Gu Qing already has an idea. Xiaowei and Yijia, the 2 mobile phone manufacturers that have deeply bundled the use of boundary monument, have really seen their sales take off this year. In the middle and high-end market, Xiaowei even sells better than Apple. In the low to mid-end market, Yijia has already been able to compete with Rice. The sales of Rice's mobile phone business have also increased this year. These 3 companies have harvested the world and seized the mobile phone market at various prices. At the beginning, they did not expect that the price/performance ratio and strong privacy protection could not be ignored. For users in the European and American markets, it was like a kitten met with freeze-dried and dried fish, and everyone couldn't stop. Due to the sharp increase in sales and slow production ramp-up, in many places, it is even hard to find a machine, and it is easy to make money by reselling it. The good friends have made a lot of money, and the little brother wants some money. Will it be difficult? Especially for some good partners who want to crack the boundary monument, but have not succeeded in cracking it. What should they do if there is no boundary monument blessing in the second half of next year? The bait that was put down at the beginning can finally be reaped a little profit today. In fact, this is like some loans. The lower the initial price, the higher the price later. Friends, get some here. If it is not enough, it is not difficult for units with confidentiality qualifications to find banks to loan some money. Moreover, semiconductor is an industry that Daxia vigorously cultivates, so it is not difficult to ask the Chengdu city government to give some help. With a solution, Gu Qing felt much more relaxed. After sending his parents on the bullet train back home, he took an Hatong to transfer to Rongqing Airport. For the sake of his waste and sleep quality, Boss Gu bought the first-class cabin this time. After catching up on sleep on the plane and eating something, Pengcheng arrived. As a prefecture-level city in Guangdong province, a city specifically listed in the national plan, a megacity, a Daxia special economic zone approved by the state Council, a national economic center city and an international city. Gu Qing felt that Pengcheng was fast. As soon as they got off the plane, people were in a hurry. Even Xia Wei, who came to pick him up from the plane, when he spoke to Gu Qing, he spoke faster than people from other places. since he didn't bring any luggage, Gu Qing asked the receptionist to take him directly to Xia Wei's headquarters. After getting out of the car, Yu Qingdong, who was busy with work, unexpectedly appeared downstairs in the company. "Mr. Gu, long time no see. Brother Yu, I haven't seen you for a long time, you still have the same demeanor." Yu Qingdong, who was born in the 60s, warmly embraced Gu Qing, who was born in the 90s. After completing the formalities at the door, Yu Qingdong brushed his face all the way and brought Gu Qing and an Hatang to his office. Both parties are old friends, and it was Xia Wei who took the initiative to invite Gu Qing and other partners to discuss matters in Pengcheng, so the atmosphere in the office is not bad. After exchanging pleasantries for a while, Yu Qingdong asked, "Mr. Gu came to Pengcheng ahead of time, do you need any help?" "We Xia Wei dare not say anything else, but we will still find ways to help our friends." Gu Qing nodded. Said, in 2016, the annual shipment of smartphones increased by 2.3% year-on-year. Based on our cooperation, domestic mobile phone manufacturers have accumulated a lot of money. I predict that the annual shipment of smartphones in 2017 should increase by more than 10% year-on-year. But this time, Mr. Ren suddenly invited our important partners to discuss matters. I don't think it's to give us big red envelopes, right? Hearing this, Yu Qingdong's expression froze for a moment. Sure enough, he is indeed a genius with meticulous logic. After speaking, Yu Qingdong looked at an Hatang behind Gu Qing. Gu Qing waved his hand, and an Hatang walked out of the office, asking his secretary to go out and look at the door. Yu Qingdong sighed and said, "Oh, Gu boy, you can see it, but do you think those bosses can't see it?" Gu Qing shook his head and nodded again. Some of the bosses in Daxia are very shrewd, but they always do some stupid things, and some are very stupid, but occasionally they do some shrewd things. The better the mobile phone business develops, the more alarmed we are, and the higher the sales volume, the more cautious we are. However, this time Hanqing's acquisition of Global Foundries has sounded the alarm for us. After talking for a long time, he finally got what he wanted to hear. Gu Qing was not in a hurry, he said, "From chip manufacturing to software design, operating system, foreign countries are far ahead of us. This time, I'm here for it." He handed Yu Qingdong a document he carried with him. Yu Qingdong's expression was quite peaceful at first, but the more he looked at it, the more his brows were furrowed. After he read the document from beginning to end, his hands even trembled a little. "Do you have the technology to make wafers now? Have you broken through 12 inches to 18 inches? Yu Qingdong was astonished. If it wasn't for the fact that the young man in front of him was a genius he recognized, he might have already asked security to throw the liar out. Now the most high-end wafer manufacturing plant is only 12 inches. Just like this, the yield rate of Daxia manufacturers is pitifully low. Isn't it a lie to make an 18-inch wafer now? It is well known that the larger the silicon wafer, the more chips it can produce. Wouldn't it be better to just make the silicon wafer bigger? Has the manufacturer not considered it? Of course not, and the manufacturer has not considered it, but the characteristics of the wafer itself will limit the size that the manufacturer can make. In the production process, the farther away from the center of the wafer, the more prone to dead spots. Expanding outward from the center of the silicon wafer, the number of dead pixels will gradually increase. Therefore, when the technology is immature, manufacturers will not easily expand the size of the wafer. If the 18-inch wafer technology in this document is true and feasible, chip manufacturers will save a lot of cost. It even caused the production of Sheshin technology to soar directly. This will slow down the external core problems of domestic mobile phones a lot. After all, not all mobile phones and high-tech products use the highest-end 10 nanometers chips. The chips with the largest shipments are those after 12 nanometers and 14 nm. Sheshin technology has been able to manufacture chips of this level, but the yield rate is not high, resulting in high costs. The production scale and output expectations described in this document made Yu Qingdong's brain a little bloodshot. If this can be realized, it will simply be the cheapest and best gunpowder for domestic chips and let them play. Can the yield rate increase? We have a lot of raw materials. You just give birth. Work hard. Is the technology on this document real? Gu Qing nodded. Can we use this technology? Gu Qing nodded slightly. The technology on this document is mine. Yu Qingdong only felt that his blood pressure was slightly elevated. Do you know what that means? He said excitedly. Chapter 94 Testimonials. You are listening at novelfull.audio. That means a fee. It has been more than a month since the first chapter was uploaded on May 26. I am very grateful to the editor-in-chief Lu Ming, who will answer any questions and recommend them to the shelves. The most depressing and happiest thing is to meet such a big day of 100 years. It caused a lot of harmonious existence, and some plots could not be described, but fortunately, they have been deleted. And the plots are also being added, going back to this book, in order to write. This book, when I searched for information, it really made me bald and angry, but also moved. Many plots have illusions, which are not nonsense, and some smart plots are not made up. They are really so magical. However, I believe that after so many years of ups and downs in the Huaxia lineage, no matter how many ghosts and thieves there are, they will eventually reach the position they used to be. Then there's the issue of subscriptions. I hope everyone subscribes to the genuine version, and don't be sure next time. Wry smile. Only with positive feedback can the author be motivated to write on his own. If there are 100 subscriptions, it will be updated, and if there are rewards, it will also be updated. Yes, that's how confident it is. If there was Yen Zhu who rewarded him enough, Warlock welded his ass to the seat on the spot, and immediately walked away. I don't believe it. I will get hemorrhoids. Chapter 95 in a word, 500 million. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It means that the high-volume and high-quality manufacturing technology of 12-inch wafers is not difficult, and Xiaxin technology, Yangtze River storage, and Changxin, which rely heavily on wafers, can use low-cost and high-quality domestic wafers. The cost of manufacturing various high-end chips will be greatly reduced. With the high yield rate and cost performance, it will be easier to compete for the market that has long been divided by the United States, Japan, and South Korea, and a major difficulty in industrial upgrading has also been resolved. Yu Qingdong nodded. Gu Qin, a young man, has always had a strong logical thinking, but one document, just want to cooperate. Back then, a certain bastard bought the finished product anyway and made the product himself. Although he didn't believe in his heart that this young genius would be an empty-handed wolf, decades of life experience made Yu Qingdong calm down. The future is beautiful, and what you describe is also our dream. Yu Qingdong helped the frame of the glasses, and said in a deep voice, but how did your company obtain such a high-tech raw material manufacturing technology? There is no step-by-step from 8 to 8. Can you create things out of thin air with the accumulation of technology made in inches? But he knows that Kyushu Technology Company is still ramping up production, and the smart home robots it sells are still out of stock. Where do they get the equipment and talents to study wafer manufacturing technology? Of course, in terms of being created out of thin air, this technology is really the case, but does Gu Qin dare to say that? Gu Qin smiled and said, others can raise hundreds of millions with PPT. I didn't use this technology to cheat money. As for making it out of thin air, my youthful white hair is not caused by genes. Yu Qingdong looked at Gu Qin seriously. This thin post-90s man dressed casually, but the dark circles under his eyes and the silvery sideburns gave off an air of decadence. He had also seen a young man in this state in Xia Wei's laboratory. It was a Russian boy who turned upside down day and night every day, but the final results attracted everyone's attention. He opened up the algorithm from 2G to 3G, which is a major breakthrough in the communication industry, and also leads the communication industry to single RAN, which means that the same set of base stations supports the deployment of multiple standards, saving operators a lot of network. The cost has also been welcomed by global operators. In terms of genius, Gu Qin has also demonstrated many times in Xia Wei's laboratory. Others have to check the calculation step by step, but he can skip the tedious steps and directly write the algorithm. Such an open-minded genius, tinkering with an interdisciplinary, world-leading technology in his secret research laboratory, there is a 10% confidence. Then what do you want? Gu Qin smiled and said, borrow money. Borrow money? Yu Qingdong frowned slightly. Yes, Boundary Monument, allows partners to have a price-performance ratio that far exceeds that of friends, so I want to sell my face and ask friends who have made a lot of money recently to borrow some, so that I can continue to research and produce wafers. In fact, saying this is a bit of a villain, and selling face is like saying, do you think highly of me? If you can afford it, you can borrow it, if you can't look down on it, then you can get together, and you won't be friends in the future. Yu Qingdong didn't refuse immediately, but asked, how much do you need? Let's start at 500 million. Compared with the rapid growth of Xiaowei's performance, the 5 small goals have achieved a global sales revenue of 650 billion Xie yuan and a net profit of 50 billion Xie yuan. Yu Qingdong frowned. His company's research and development expenditure this year has been approved to 90 billion Xia yuan, and the investment in research and development in the past 10 years has exceeded 400 billion Xia yuan. It's not difficult to lend 500 million to a partner, but why can Mr. Gu bring it to Xia? A stable supplier of chip raw materials in the future, Boundary Monument, second-year global partner invitation letter, and 10 upgraded Titan Star large-scale sweeping robots. Gu Qing promised that when it came to giving away the robot vacuum cleaner, it was as solemn as giving away a family heirloom. Yu Qingdong was stunned. This kid looks young, why does he always have something to say? A stable supplier of chip raw materials in the future, this kind of thing is to draw a big pie. Although it is very important, it is not the most urgent requirement now. Boundary Monument, invitation letter for global partners in the second year. This means that in a few months, after the expiration of the partnership agreement, this kid plans to cut leaks from mobile phone manufacturers again, and he is still a global mobile phone manufacturer. Apple, Korean stars, and the revived Nokia can't help but spend money. 10 upgraded Titangsing large-scale sweeping robots are just a little bit more, and they are the most realistic thing Xiaowei has obtained. After all, this product is quite popular. Without thinking for a long time, Yu Qingdong and Gu Qing reached a willingness to cooperate. Of course, it is impossible for people to be empty-handed white wolves. The next day, the documents Gu Qing brought appeared on the desks of some real experts. After deduction, the direction of the technology is feasible. If the technical requirements in this document are really implemented, the products produced should be qualified, and the yield rate and purity should be ahead of similar products. On the same day, Yu Qingdong's phone calls were blown up by these experts and engineers. When they learned that this was a technology developed by Daxia company, they scratched their heads and were ecstatic at the same time. How can this kind of precision and production process be achieved? What energy source has this kind of persistence, and how does the workshop transform gravity? It's been a long time since this kind of God-man appeared in our great Xia. Isn't this unscientific? After verification, under the suggestion of Mr. Ren, the 3-year interest-free loan of 500 million yuan was stabilized. Gu Qing's expression was relatively indifferent when he signed the document. Although in one sentence, people spent 500 million for him, but the money has to be repaid after all. Although there is no mortgage, he has made a promise. If he breaks the promise in the future, then he will. Daxia's circle is not so easy to mix. A few days later, Mr. Ren's invitation meeting arrived as scheduled. In 2016, the annual shipment of smartphones increased by 2.3% year-on-year. After forecasting, the annual shipment of smartphones in 2017 should increase by 5% year-on-year. The boss was looking forward to the future on stage, while Gu Qing was eating fruit while looking at the bosses off stage. There is an obvious feature. Compared with Yijia and Dami, among the suppliers of Xiaowei, there are far fewer faces of foreigners than the other two. However, it is also understandable. After all, Yijia and Rice rely on foreign companies such as Qualcomm for their mobile phones, and in order to obtain sufficient supply and priority, many foreign company executives have been hired with high salaries. The meeting finally ended with good wishes for the future. Boss Gu declined the executives who wanted to discuss cooperation, and flew back to Chengdu that night. Time does not wait. On the second day, the open space next to Kyushu smart home appliance manufacturing factory was full of enthusiasm. One after another excavators were scattered all over the construction site. The wallet was bulging, and Gu Qing's request was raised. The main production plant will be built within 1.5 months, equipment adjustments will be carried out within half a month, and trial production will start within 1 week. the online topic about Han Xing's acquisition of Global Foundries has already cooled down, and public opinion has begun to chase entertainment news again. Only those who care about related industries are worried about the pattern of chip manufacturing in 2 months. Chapter 96, The Flood Rushes the Dragon King Temple. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After working as a supervisor on the construction site for a few days, Qing became a trapeze man again. No matter how good the product is, someone needs to pay for it. He was still thinking about it on the plane. The world's top 3 chip manufacturers, Samsung, Intel, and TSMC, all reached the level of tens of billions of dollars. From the process point of view, TSMC is at the forefront of the industry, and has now mass-produced 10 nanometers process chips, and even said that the 7 nanometers process will be mass-produced in 2018. Shashin Technology, the leading foundry manufacturer in Daxia, currently has 28 nanometers process mass production capacity, 14 nanometers is in trial production, and strives to enter the customer verification stage by the end of 2018, and 12 nanometers research has also taken shape. In contrast, TSMC already had 28 nanometers mass production capacity in 2011. Although it is a big version behind, fortunately, it has not completely fallen behind. Next to Mao Xiong's family, in 2014, the Dutch Mapper Company and the Russian Rusnano Company jointly established a factory in Moscow to produce microelectromechanical optical components, the core components of maskless lithography machines. Mapper's multi-beam maskless lithography machine can be used for 32 nanometers manufacturing, and its core components are made in Russia, Russia's domestic semiconductor consumption market is less than 2% of the world's share, and all products that use high-end chips are purchased directly with deep pockets, sell domestic natural resources at low prices and buy foreign high-tech products at high prices. The military industry is even worse. The use of advanced electronic components in foreign trade still needs the approval of the United States, otherwise the use of Russian technology is too far behind, although a half-dead bear is a good bear. But it is also because of the experience of Big Brother that Daxia officials spare no effort to support related industries. Subsidies, tax cuts, recruitment, land use, all kinds of tricks have been used, and this has brought about today's situation. Otherwise, the United States will be afraid of Daxia. Will choke the neck. Joke. Oh my, it's so cold. After getting off the plane, Qing, who was not in good health, shivered. The weather in Pudong City was a bit colder than that in Rongcheng, and Hatong put on his own coat for his boss with great insight. This time, it was Xia Wei's person who picked him up. The vice president has already prepared a banquet for Mr. Gu at the hotel. Well, it's still thanks to brother Yu, otherwise it would be another mess. Qing sighed. The person who picked up the plane didn't dare to say anything else. This matter has to start from the technical document that Qing gave before. 500 million Xie yuan is not enough for such a large-scale project. For the sake of the younger generation, Yu Qingdong contacted a friend of Shashin Technology and asked about the general situation. The result was chatting, and one of them was not news. The news flashed across his mind. In 2016, Shashin Technology Company announced the construction of a new 12-inch wafer fab in Pudong, with a total investment of more than 67.5 billion yuan. This factory will use the 14 nanometers process, which is the most advanced of Shashin technology and the most advanced in China. Manufacturing process. The new 12-inch production line project is expected to have a total investment of more than $10 billion, and will build a production capacity that can accommodate 70,000 pieces per month in the future through a joint venture. The friend on the other end of the phone also said that this production line is accelerating the research and development process, and strives to achieve a breakthrough at the end of Xiaoyin Star Calendar 1018. This is very unfortunate. The guy from Kyushu Technology is also working on a 12-inch production line, and that technology doesn't seem to need another year of research and development. At that time, if this kid's craftsmanship is really as stated in the document, after a large-scale expansion of production, it can reach a high output of hundreds of thousands a month. Wouldn't it be flooding the Dragon King Temple? You must know that the actual monthly output of Shashin Technology is currently not 100,000 pieces. In order to save the possible crisis in the future, Yu Qingdong contacted Qing. After the exchange between the two sides, Qing also realized it later. At that time, he was only concerned with localizing the technology and forgot that he was not fighting alone. I asked Xuanwu to check the situation and found out that although Shexin technology is not the best due to the monopoly of technology patents and equipment, they are indeed working hard. This is a bit embarrassing. Moreover, Qing Dong's reservations are different. His family knows his own affairs, and he didn't set up a fab to cheat subsidies or produce in small batches. The arc reactor provides energy, the various mechanical arms participate in the operation, and the Xuanwu intelligent program takes over every process. It is like a flying dragon riding on the face. How could it fail? Therefore, in order for everyone to have a better future, Yu Qingdong contacted Shexin Technology's partner, intending to ask Gu Qing to have a good discussion with him. Otherwise, when both sides are out, wouldn't it be a fight? The most urgent task is to strive for the improvement of the chip manufacturing process, not the problem of wafer production. Only by solving the problems, can we have the capital to talk more. After not seeing each other for a few days, when they met again, Yu Qingdong looked at Gu Qing with a lot of unknown meanings in his eyes. The technology developed by this thin young man is even more advanced than that produced by so many engineers. Maybe that's why geniuses are called geniuses. Ordinary people can only feel admiration when they see it, and they can't afford to be jealous. Brother Yu, good evening. It's really expensive to invite you to dinner. Well, this kid is quite polite. Yu Qingdong smiled and hugged Gu Qing. It's cold here, keep warm, don't catch a cold. Gu Qing nodded. Today's dinner is the Executive Vice President of Shexin Technology, Gao Shan, a doctor of management from Nankai University. In 2013, he was appointed as the Executive Vice President of Strategic Planning of Shexin Technology, and then transferred to Executive Director. He was also appointed as the Joint Company Secretary of Shexin Technology Company, Limited, and the weight of words is enough. Feeling a bit concerned by the elders, Yu Qingdong showed Gu Qing the truth. Today's meal, you guys have a good chat. If it goes well, you can go to the laboratory next to their new production line tomorrow. Well, I get it. Gu Qing took off the overcoat he was wearing and handed it to An Hatong. Entering the gate of the hotel, a gust of warm wind that can only be felt in spring hits. The air is fresh and has a little aroma. It doesn't smell like the food in ordinary restaurants, but like the quiet sandalwood that can only be found in Buddhist temples and Taoist temples. Yu Qingdong led Gu Qing to the box, where a middle-aged man was already sitting. He was wearing a suit and glasses, with a dangerous hairline and slightly fat cheeks. Seeing Yu Qingdong leading a young man in, Gao Shan stood up. I said, why did you ask me out for dinner? It turned out that you brought your own juniors. Why, don't you introduce me? Yu Qingdong snorted and waved his hands. This is Mr. Gu from Kyushu Science and Technology Company, the developer of Boundary Monument. If I have such a junior, I will treat you to dinner and let you bring it. Hearing about Kyushu Technology, Gao Shan didn't react yet, but when he mentioned Boundary Monument, he just slapped his head. Boundary Monument's optimization and privacy system are really good. I didn't expect Mr. Gu to be so young, so disrespectful. Chapter 97 Dilemma. You are listening at novelfull.audio. They are all old drivers who have been driving in the mall for many years. It is rare that what is on the surface and the thoughts in the bottom of the heart can be synchronized. After 3 rounds of wine and 5 flavors of food, Gao Shan wiped the fog from his glasses and felt a little bit of context. The 3 parties also gradually learned about the situation during the conversation. At this time, Yu Qingdong winked at Gu Qing. Gu Qing received the prompt, swallowed the crab meat in his mouth, and took over the topic. Advanced manufacturing processes are showing a trend of increasing capital and technical barriers, and the industry structure is gradually clarifying. From the point of view of the manufacturing process, the industry needs extremely high capital, talent and technical barriers. Not only has there been no new competitors for more than 10 years, but also with the emergence of the watershed in the process, more and more participants have been out of the game from the advanced process. Among the second-tier manufacturers, Global Foundries has announced that it will abandon 7 nanometers RD in 2018, and UMC has also announced that it will abandon investment in advanced manufacturing processes below 12 nanometers, that is, 7 nanometers and below, in 2018. Therefore, only the industry leaders TSMC, Hansung, and Intel are the players who maintain advanced process R&D, and your company, Shashin Technology, is trying to catch up. Gao Shan took a sip of his tea and nodded. This matter is well known in the industry, and he is not surprised. Since the beginning of 2017, the price of silicon wafers, the raw material for semiconductors, has been rising. The average contract price in the global silicon wafer market in the first quarter increased by about 10%. In the second quarter, the price of silicon wafers continued to rise, with a cumulative increase of more than 20%. The third quarterly contract prices will increase by about 10%, and the price increase trend is rapidly spreading from 12-inch silicon wafers to 8-inch and 6-inch silicon wafers. Neon silicon wafer giant Sumco estimates that the price of 12-inch silicon wafers is expected to further increase by about 20% in 2018, and will continue to increase in 2019. The three giants of Hansung Electronics, Micron Technology, and SK Hynix will directly occupy more than 90% of the chip market share next year. Moreover, you should have your own channels to know about the fire at the Hanqing Memory Factory. The 10 nm level-drawn production line at the Yongsan chip factory has been destroyed, so I have to admire Hanqing's dominance in Korea for being able to hide it for so long. After the voice fell, the box suddenly fell silent. Gao Shan and Yu Qingdong looked at Gu Qing at the same time. This young man, behind Hanqing's series of operations, is the destruction of the top-notch production line. Although it is mainly used to make memory chips, many of the technologies and equipment used in a series can be used to make mobile phone chips. It hasn't been long since these giants knew the news. How did the young man in front of him know? Gu Qing pretended to be profound and smiled, and gave An Hatang a wink. Uncle Gao, I have a technical document here. You have been in this industry for so long, help me check it. Gao Shan wiped his hands before accepting the document handed over by An Hatang. Is it the technology to make wafers? However, like opening a Pandora's box, Vice President Gao became more and more addicted, and sweat broke out on his forehead. A few minutes later, he looked at Gu Qing suspiciously. Mr. Gu, where did you get this technical document? Gu Qing smiled modestly. In our company's research room, there is an immature little technology. As soon as these words came out, Gao Shan's pupils felt like an earthquake. Immature little technology. Return to the company's research office. As a company that sells small home appliances and engages in system optimization, what basis do you have for this level of wafer manufacturing process? But what Gu Qing said next made his heart turn 1,000 times. Our company is going through the review process of Junfang's confidential qualification unit. I believe that in the future, we should have more in-depth exchanges and cooperation with your company. After all, future bionic mechanical prosthetics and other smart home appliances will need chips. But these words awakened Gao Shan. The secrecy qualification unit in that place is stronger than the state enterprise central enterprise, so this technology was developed by those national treasure scientists. Thinking about the feats of the Daxia officials back then, Gao Shan felt a little enlightened. This Kyushu technology company should also be a glove. Otherwise, how could two high-end technologies in unrelated industries be obtained from a little-known kid? And the bodyguard next to this kid, who stood there for a long time, tall and straight, without moving a muscle, should be the special forces over there. So, this is help from above. Thinking of this, the stone in Gao Shan's heart fell to the ground at once. Mr. Gu took out this document. There should be something to say. I'm all ears. This sudden change in painting style made Gu Qing feel a little uncomfortable. Why did this boss suddenly become so talkative? And why did Yu Qingdong's expression suddenly change? He had forgotten that Mr. Ren was also from the military. However, since the senior vice president of Shashin Technology said so, Gu Qing did not intend to hide it. Our Kyushu Technology Company has already broken ground to build a wafer manufacturing plant. If everything goes well, the production workshop will be completed within 2 months, and there will be stable output within 3 months, ensuring a monthly output of 400,000 wafers within 1 year. Inch wafers. Gao Shan's first reaction was to spray the brat in front of him, build a production workshop in 2 months, and stabilize the output within 3 months. But after thinking about it, those people did have such a feat back then, even with a monthly output of 400,000 pieces. Is Mr. Gu so confident? Do you have something to rely on? Gao Shan asked solemnly. After all, he felt a little guilty. It was really a question of how much help he could provide. Gu Qing pursed her lips and said, "Iron will is my greatest confidence, relying on cutting-edge technology." Isn't the non-stop intelligent mechanical production the will of steel? The technological knowledge of dimensional empire is not cutting-edge enough to put on a small broken ball. At this moment when the rain is about to come and the wind is full of the building, Gu Qing's words gave Gao Shan great courage, but he still shook his head. The output of TSMC, Hanxing, and Intel is still not to be underestimated, and if it is exposed that we can mass-produce 12-inch wafers, they will either immediately expand production and lower prices, using the price war wiped out our investment, or use the method of banning the sale of key equipment, or even directly banning the sale of chips, to curb our development. Once the high-end mobile phone chips start to be out of stock on a large scale, then your mobile phone manufacturers like Xiaowei and our wafer foundries like Xiaxin will immediately fall into the quagmire of technological war. At that time, what we are facing is not ordinary. It is a life-and-death battle between Great Xia and Europe, the United States, Japan, and South Korea's high-tech. Gu Qing understands the difficulties faced by leading technology companies such as Xiaxin Technology. While working hard, he must also consider the acceptance of his opponents. The development of Daxia's industrial types is comprehensive, but only comprehensive. Many industries are actually not high-end. It is easy to upgrade individual industries, but it is too difficult to upgrade the entire industry. P.S. Good night everyone, thank you for the rewards, monthly tickets and recommendation tickets, and thank you for the genuine subscription, you Yanzas and fairies, you deserve a promotion and a raise. Chapter 98. You are listening at novelfull.audio. If you dare to upgrade, challenge our status, and grab our profits, then we will suppress your industry and make your industry economically crisis. If you don't upgrade, then accept the exploitation of our high-tech products obediently. Medical care, entertainment, and military are all controlled by others. 20 years ago, Daxia needed to export 800 million shirts to buy an A380 Airbus plane. The contradiction between the people's ever-growing needs for a better life and unbalanced and inadequate development cannot be resolved overnight. If you want to play the most trendy VR games, somatosensory games, and 3A masterpieces, the hardware manufactured by domestic-related industries cannot meet the optimal configuration. Requirements of these games at present, however, if the domestic industry wants to develop to the extent that it can meet these demands, it needs massive capital investment. Can users pay for domestic hardware that started out rubbish? 95% of people will not. If there are not enough users to buy, and there is not enough funds, then the production process level cannot be improved, and the production process cannot be improved. Compared with the products of the first-line companies, the performance of the company's products will become worse and worse, and fewer people will buy them. Until bankruptcy, foreign companies have enough users, enough talents and funds, upgrade their technology every 2 years, and replace them every 5 years, forming a virtuous circle. In the end, 2 or 3 companies will carve up users all over the world. This would have been a beautiful planned setting. But after so many years of immersing themselves in the development of Daxia, a few existences that cannot be controlled by foreign countries have really popped up. So Gu Qing drank a cup of white fungus soup, moistened his throat, and said, "Currently the world's top high-voltage transmission equipment, talents and patents are the honor of Daxia, the shield machine, from zero to the world's #1, it is the medal of Daxia, the high-speed rail, from the introduction of technology to the world's leading technology, currently accounts for 69% of the world's share, is Daxia's world business card. They can all work, but why can't our chip work? Mr. Yu, tell me, is this the truth?" Yu Qingdong was originally thinking while listening to Gu Qing's words, but when he was suddenly called out to express his opinion, he was taken aback for a moment. Is this the reason? Of course that's the reason. We've never been afraid of anyone. That he could only take up the conversation and say this. But he also set up the mountain. The eyes of the two looked at Gao Shan in unison. Others are in full swing. Do you want to be a turtle? Vice President Gao is naturally not the kind of person to be offended, but sitting in his position, he is looking at the overall situation, not his personal feelings. He nodded to express his psychological agreement. but didn't give any extra explanation. A little tipsy, he took a sip of the tea. This is really no good wine and no good banquet, however. Whether Vice President Gao was the chief accountant of the Telecommunications Science and Technology Research Institute, the executive director of the Daxia Accounting Society, and the doctor of management of Nankai University, after calming down and thinking about it, he came up with a countermeasure. Well, we can't convince the other party at the moment, so let's put aside the dispute and make a plan that is beneficial and harmless to both parties. Gao Shan put the teacup in his hand on the table, and then put the wine glass in his hand aside. As we all know, white wine glasses are relatively small. He pointed to the white wine glass and said, from a technical point of view, this glass is brewed by us. It is not beneficial to drink too much. He pointed to the teacup and said, in terms of industry, tea is a product of our native land, which suits the tastes of Chinese people, and the output will increase in the future. Then he handed the white wine glass to Yu Qingdong, picked up the teacup himself, and said, if there is enough tea one day, then I will like to drink tea, and I will give this glass of wine to my friends, but it maybe get some drink money. Yu Qingdong took the small wine glass, smelled the mellow aroma of the liquor, and said with a smile, this is you don't see the tombs of heroes in the 5 tombs, and you have no flowers and no wine to hoe the fields. Then drink it down. Gao Shan smiled and drank the tea in his cup. Gu Qing sighed. These 2 riddlers were really flamboyant, and filled himself another bowl of Buddha jumping over the wall. Drinking tea and drinking is as comfortable as Buddha jumping over the wall. He also understood what Vice President Gao meant. If the key wafers are produced, Shexin will be very willing to purchase them. And now the fabs that have invested a lot of money in construction will find them at a high price, or further increase their output, so that more friends can use them in the summer. For these future plans, the most important thing is whether Kyushu Technology can keep its word. A meal is full of wine and food, and the guests enjoy themselves. Gu Qin was also very grateful for Uncle Dazue's arrangement, and decided to cut leaks with less force next time. There is a saying that mountains and rivers meet each other, and the home is under construction. Early the next morning, Gu Qin, who was eager to return home, took an hatong and boarded the plane back to Rongcheng. 4 hours later, in the cold wind, he was already fighting with the group of workers. The design of the wafer product production plant must meet the requirements of the Silicon Integrated Circuit Chip Factory design specifications, and the Clean Workshop design must also meet the requirements of the Electronic Industry Clean Workshop design specifications. I know everyone is busy, but we are too. 1 day in advance, complete the first phase of the project with quality and quantity, and our company will give an extra 1 million. Painting cakes is an incentive, and red envelopes are also an incentive, because this time, we directly found a team with a Chinese prefix, Superbatch excavators, in teams to build, and 1 million was actually distributed to everyone, which is not much, but what about the uneven score? Construction is in full swing on the construction site, and the factory is also busy working overtime. However, a director of Kyushu Science and Technology Company who has been away from the office all year round is quite leisurely at the moment. Of course, he also took a break from his busy schedule. Today is the last stop in Daxia, and after the end, he can go home and hug his little padded jacket. The tea house where he is sitting now is located in the Hsinchu Science and Technology Park in Daxia Ryukyu Province, where the world's largest semiconductor manufacturing company, TSMC, is located. Of course, the purpose of Director Zhang's trip is not to discuss cooperation with TSMC. He is the Director of Human Resources, so he is naturally here to make friends with people. Although TSMC's core patented technologies are in the hands of the United States and its allies, these advanced machines and patented technologies require human execution or regulation. As the saying goes, when a fellow countryman sees a fellow countryman, his eyes are full of tears. Under the guidance of the waiter, Li Yu went up to the 2nd floor, and as soon as he entered the box door, he nodded towards Zhang Yuanfeng, sat down on the chair, and did not speak. Zhang Yuanfeng stood up naturally and handed him a cup of hot tea. In this tea house, only this Weishan de Hongpo is interesting. Drink a cup and warm up your body. Thank you, but I'm curious, why are you looking for me? Li Yu asked, pushing away the de Hongpo in front of him. Chapter 99 Recruiting People. Everyone has what they need. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A week ago, he was busy debugging new machines at TSMC. At the beginning of this month, TSMC's orders inexplicably surged, making them engineers work overtime every day, and they were so busy that they were dizzy, and Zhang Yuanfeng actually called his private phone one night, and after exchanging pleasantries, he made an appointment at such a time. Please drink tea. Well, it's normal tea. Li Yu originally refused, but the other party said that the tea fee was 100,000 yuan, and the phone fee for this call was 20,000 yuan. In fact, let's put it this way, he likes to drink tea, taste tea. Zhang Yuanfeng used a detector to scan in the box of this tea house in advance, so he was relatively at ease. Explain clearly who you are and why you want to make friends. Zhuzhou Science and Technology Company in Rongcheng, Sichuan. Are you recruiting an engineer like me who is engaged in semiconductor industry R&D and manufacturing for system software? Li Yu knew about this company. Although Boundary Monument could not be used on his iPhone, he had already bought 2 Titan Star Series intelligent sweeping robots for his home in mainland China. It is also this product that is good at doing housework that keeps him from worrying too much about his wife and children's housework. If it wasn't for his major in TSMC to get a high salary, otherwise he would not choose to leave his family. As for his wife, will he be hated because of the long-term separation between the two places? That silly woman subconsciously protected him while he was taking a nap at the most dangerous time. From that day on, he vowed to love this silly woman for the rest of his life, even if she lost her right arm. Stumbled to today, from the monthly salary of 10,000 in the mainland to 16,000 now. To be honest, Li Yu didn't want to go back. He needs to make money, and even plans to take his family over in the future. After all, he wants to provide his children with a good education in a first-tier city in mainland China, and the housing prices in that area really make him feel a bit difficult. However, to his surprise, Zhang Yuanfeng did not explain why he was recruited, but handed over his own mobile phone. Brotherly, please don't spread the word after reading it. Li Yu took the phone suspiciously. The screen was still black, but a picture soon appeared. First, line-by-line subtitles are printed on the video, December 15, 2017. Then the picture is clear, and in a brightly lit room, some strangely dressed people are walking, running, jumping, and playing table tennis. After that, the camera gave a close-up of the old man playing table tennis. He bowed slightly, swung the racket with his right hand, and hit the balls with tricky angles back one by one. With several straight blades, there was even a whistling sound as the ping-pong ball was hit. But what is a bit abrupt is that the entire right arm of this old man is not like the arm of an ordinary old man, and the muscles are a bit too standard. Then the picture gradually moved, and at this time Li Yu discovered that there were several cables behind the old man, and some devices were fixed on his back and shoulders. Finally the picture fades to black. This old man used to be the table tennis champion in the factory, and his skills are not bad. Li Yu nodded. As a layman, he actually doesn't know any table tennis skills, but thinking about it from another perspective, if he reaches the age of this old man, he will definitely not be able to hit those consecutive penhold shots. But in the next second, he froze. Lines of subtitles are printed on the video, May 3, 2017. The video gradually brightens, and the picture shows a hospital ward. The old man who just played table tennis was lying on the hospital bed with a pale complexion, beside his relatives and doctors. They were talking about something, but these are not important. Li Yu is staring at the old man's upper body at this moment, without arms. Wait, this is the video from May. He lost his arms in May, so why was he still playing table tennis in December? Li Yu frowned, and his thoughts gradually rose. Zhang Yuanfeng's professionalism for so many years has given him a pair of discerning eyes. Seeing the man's frowning and the thoughtful look in his eyes, he knew that the vote had been won. After adjusting his breath, he spoke clearly. Our company is going through the review process of the military secret qualification unit. The old man's lost arms have returned to his body through the derivative technology of the confidential project. Li Yu's breath was suffocated suddenly, his lips were slightly parted, and his eyes were full of surprise. Confidential project? Has Daxia been able to do this? Why is he showing me this? Currently, regular employees of the company can sign a non-disclosure agreement to try to participate in the experiment of this derivative technology. If Brotherly joins the job, I can promise that the siblings can get a place within 2 months, and it is free, and this experiment is an external body experiment, and does not require surgery and drugs with unknown side effects. It didn't say that we want to enter the semiconductor industry and hire these routines with high salaries, just handing in the bottom line can complete the lore. Li Yuze listened to this sentence carefully, and felt that his brain went blank, his hands holding the phone were shaking, and he was so surprised that he couldn't speak. Is this real? After a while, he said excitedly, really? Do you really have this technology? Can I fight for a spot? If everything goes well. Zhang Yuanfeng nodded. There is a prerequisite for this. You have not signed a non-competition agreement, and you have successfully joined our company. Of course, you can check our company's qualifications by yourself. It's not some leather bag company that cheats on subsidies. I haven't been here for 2 years, and I haven't signed a non-compete agreement. Li Yu said hastily. Zhang Yuanfeng smiled. Recruitment should be a matter of double selection. Brother Li, please think carefully. I will leave Ryukyu province at noon tomorrow. Just give me a letter of approval before then. This time, Li Yu was strongly shaken by his desire to stay in Ryukyu province. What is the house price? As long as my wife can return to normal life. After finishing speaking, Zhang Yuanfeng stood up and said, the tea fee will be credited later. If you have an idea, just call me as usual. Our company needs you. The salary may not be the highest, but it will be within a reasonable range, and everyone's choice is two-way. We respect everyone. After saying this, Zhang Yuanfeng left, and he had to meet some new friends in Ryukyu province. Time is short and tasks are heavy, and he has always felt that if you can talk successfully, just talk, and talk too much like a stalker. Apart from wasting everyone's time, it will not have much effect, and it will even make people disgusted. Li Yu watched Zhang Yuanfeng go away, then he sat down, thought about it, and then took out his mobile phone, searched the internet for more information about Kyushu Technology Company, and even dragged his friends to ask about the company's internal details. The tea has gradually cooled down, but his heart is getting hotter and hotter. P.S. Thank you for being so handsome, and for subscribing to this book, and thank you for the recommendation and monthly tickets. Good night. Chapter 100. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The lights are on outside the window. After video chatting with his wife for a few days, Li Yu lost sleep. The wife in the video was a little thinner than before he left. Although her parents were helping to take care of her, when she turned off the video, the look of loneliness in her eyes still worried Li Yu. Recalling that he chatted with his friend before and asked Kyushu Technology Company, the friend said how powerful the company's products were, and even when they wanted to crack, the key components were directly locked by the system, and the most important intelligent program of the robotic arm was even more powerful. Automatically destroyed, this company is indeed very evil, and there are security patrols outside the factory. Chow Nima. I want to go back. With a low shout, he opened his notebook and started typing out his resignation report. Talent is the most important resource in the new century, and in order to welcome the talents scooped up by the big net that cost tens of millions of dollars this time, Kyushu Technology Company, Limited has started a new round of rectification. Of course, it is also for the follow-up public review and secret investigation by relevant departments. The first is the complete partition of the construction site next door and the Kyushu manufacturing plant. Not only is the line drawn and fenced, but the security team will also take the puppies on patrol at any time. The arrival of this group of professionals in Anhatang has changed the security department from a leisurely and high-paying department to a department that needs to sweat and practice many skills. 45 people usually have to take turns to be on duty, and the rest is to train physical fitness, security awareness, and related skills. Anhatang even bought a few offspring of military dogs through the relationship. Some of the equipment obtained through special channels were also handed over to the group of young people in the security department. For the equipment released by this kind of unit, which bloody man can refuse? So far, the security guards have been talking about being a teenager, holding yellow on the left, electric batons on the right, black uniforms, and busy patrolling every day. There are also more security gates set up. Each gate in the park has a security gate, and each production workshop is also installed. The most ruthless is the laboratory building. In this building, there are security gates on every floor, and these security gates are equipped with cameras, which are connected to the surveillance system. The system, Xuanwu, scans around the clock. Without wearing the work badge that binds the identity, you can't even get out of the building. Of course, there are also many old employees who think this is too troublesome. At the beginning, there were some people who turned over the window and rubbed other people's work badges. However, after just 1 week, whether it was ordinary workers, technical staff or management of the factory, after signing several non-disclosure agreements and work specifications, and taking several safety courses, finally, the 3 managers and 4 after the old employees were forcibly fired. They finally changed a lot. I don't blame Qing for being so strict, it's just that people think differently. It's really stupid to talk about the company's confidentiality requirements repeatedly and use it as a talking point, and in the busyness of everyone, with the passage of time, the 17-year chapter was silently turned over. In mid-January, in order to resist the earthquake, the foundation and frame of the firmly guarded wafer production workshop were finally repaired. After all, it is not a high-rise building, so the speed can be increased. It has to be said that the speed of Daxia's infrastructure construction is really unparalleled. On the other hand, Junguo Technology Company rented more than a dozen apartments in a certain district in the urban area with huge sums of money. Casting a large net around the world, still caught more than a dozen talents. The main thing is that the personnel identified by Qing and Xuanwu after the review are basically ordinary talents who have just emerged in the industry, and they all have places to communicate, so the success rate is not low. Among them, there is one person who came from the Ryukyu province of Baodao is the most special. He is the late group of contacts, but he is the first group to live in the company's apartment. Although the office building of the semiconductor department is still being repaired, their office is currently in the business incubator. Of course there are other reasons too. The manufacturing plant is still undergoing various reviews from relevant departments recently, so those who have returned from overseas are not suitable for entering the park. As for the incubator, there are not many other things, and there are quite a lot of office areas. The school even said that if the Kyushu Technology Company needs it, they can vacate 3 more floors. However, in order not to take up too many resources, Qing still gave money shamelessly and rented a floor at a low price. While Boss Gu was running between the outskirts and the incubator, the military secret investigation team also quietly arrived in Rongcheng, which forced Qing to spend a little time every day to observe and pay attention to this group of people. How do you say he knew? Who said that some of them wanted to enter the Kyushu smart home appliance manufacturing factory through normal recruitment? Xuanwu is now the second authority of Kyushu Company. When employees are recruited, identity checks and searches on the entire internet are all normal processes. Relevant departments can forge false identity information, but it is impossible to completely erase the information of these people on the internet. For example, bare-faced photos and photos from student days, often used to land on the Penguin and so on. In today's society, personal privacy is really information that cannot be investigated in depth, because as long as you really want to investigate, there must be a way. Boss Gu wanted to pass these people at first, but after thinking about it, it was too obvious to do so, so he chose to accept it. However, seeing these people's physical condition is not bad. The little devil in my heart can't control it. Since they are all professionally trained, they must have good physical strength, so when these people joined the job, they basically entered the warehousing department and the production department, and only one with a chef certificate entered the back kitchen of the staff canteen. As for highly educated people who want to enter the management and research department, sorry, there is no shortage of people in the management position at present, only internal promotion. If you want to enter the research department, please show some of your grades. The more papers, works, medals, etc., the better. Identity is easy to forge, but works and papers are not so easy to forge. What? You have not? Then please go out and turn left, and go back to the nearest bus in the urban area, every 20 minutes. So among the 9 people screened by Xuanwu, 3 were directly passed, and the remaining 6 are currently the most hardworking employees in the factory. Then, after working hard overtime for a week, the upper limit of working hours was triggered, and they were forced to take a vacation. Their management also said that the factory has medical examination subsidies for new employees, and hoped that they could take advantage of the vacation to take a good physical examination. Does the national defense body need a medical examination? Of course it is not necessary, and in order to be promoted to the management position, they plan to continue working overtime next week. It's just that they don't know that in Kyushu Technology Company, if they want to be promoted from ordinary workers to management positions, they may not be able to do it until next year.